right, welcome back to Digital Marketing Masterclass. I have a very special guest, Julia McCoy. Julia, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thank you. I just found out that you're a serious AI nerd, so we were talking about that. I
Yeah,
love it.
all in, all in. Well, you knew my co-host, which is Andy Crestadina. He joins me for a minimum of a
Yes.
show a month, and when I left, when we were at MACON, which was the Marketing AI conference, it's Paul Rotzer's event. He talked to you, and then when I walked away, he's like, "Dude, you got to get her on the show." And then we looked, and we're like booked for like months. And I was like, "Why don't I get her on now? And if it works out really great, then I'll have her back, and the two of us will interview her." So yeah,
Love it.
to our listeners, tell us a little bit about your background, the companies you ran, the companies you sold, everything. What's going on in your life?
Yes, yes. Well, 11 years ago, I was 19 years old, and I'm like, how do I make a career doing what I love? And what I loved was writing. So I Googled that phrase. This was 2011. Upwork was Odesk. And I find out here's Odesk. They have a minimum of 13,000 writing gigs available. So I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, there's a market. So I sign up, build a freelance profile, and I was off to the races. 3 months later, I had more work than I could handle. There wasn't a lot of competition, to be
Yep.
fair. So, it's 2011. Content marketing is a baby of an industry in the online realm, that is. And so I picked up work and I had this crossroads. Do I start a business or do I carry on as a
Yeah.
freelancer? So what did I do? I started a business.
Yep.
And with no experience, built a business. And over the next 10 years, that grew to be 100 writers. So I sold that in 2021. We were one of the first actually to launch an e-commerce platform for writing as a service. Knew Andy Crestadina in those days. It was not an easy gig to manage 100
No.
humans and do that. And it's funny because you and I, we're talking now in an age where AI can do, I would say 90% of what I was humanly doing. So we can replace all that grunt work now with
Yeah.
technology, which
Yeah.
is wild
Yeah.
to me. But I sold that agency in 2021 because,
Oof.
I saw the writing on the wall. AI is coming. Let me get out of this. I don't think it's a good idea to have 100 writers on staff when AI is going to be at its peak. So I sold it when my writing agency was doing incredible numbers. We grew it to, it was generating 40,000 a week, so it was really hard to sell.
Jeez.
But we sold it when it was going
Yep.
good. Regretted that for a few months
Yeah.
because the money was
Yeah.
great. But then, oh my gosh, ChatGPT hits, and I'm going. I'm so glad I sold that agency. I
Yep.
saw friend after friend that was running a writing agency. They looked at me and said, "Julia, I had to shut down my company. I couldn't get a penny for it." So sold at the right
Wow.
time. I still think there's so much opportunity for writing agencies to pivot and
Yep.
actually have AI as their
Yep.
provider. But you got to pivot. You've got to take advantage of the
Yeah.
times. But
Yep.
now, long story short, I work in AI. So I'm the president and partner at Continent Scale, which is one of the world's fastest growing AI writers for the SEO industry. So it generates long form content. The content I used to do, I sold for sometimes $1,000 per piece. It's doing that in less than 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's fully original, undetectable content, research backed.
Yeah.
So it's wild. I joined that tool, the one that probably is going to replace what I
That's
did.
yeah. That's crazy. And we are in the trial. But I forgot to tell you that in the pre-show. We're in the trial of your software now, and I it's so crazy.
Nice.
Like I started this company, and I used to get my hands dirty in marketing. I started doing graphic design. I haven't graphic designed in years. Then I got into marketing, and now all I really do is talk.
You told me the numbers. You're pretty good at
Yeah,
this, Chris.
but it's funny though because my story is similar to yours in the aspect of, like I got in this thing to graphic design, and then you wake up one day and you haven't designed in 10 years. You have a company, you haven't designed 10 years. I mean, when was the last time
Yeah.
you put pen to paper? Well, maybe not pen to paper, but you know, it's been a while, I guess, right?
Figured a
Yeah,
keyboard.
exactly.
Well, I have to say, like, I'm somebody that really believes in being a practitioner. And if writing was the thing that I sold, the thing that I taught, because I also get paid a lot to teach
Yep.
this, I'm like, well, I better write.
Okay.
So I can tell you the last time I wrote was 20 minutes ago. I wrote a TEDx pitch and I like wrote the whole thing from scratch. Now,
Wow.
in these days, like I'm using
Sure.
AI, so you'll see me writing humanly if it's a newsletter, if it's something that's really special, like a TEDx
Yep.
pitch. But if it's like the blog, a book, I'm definitely leveraging
Yeah.
AI.
Absolutely. here's what I thought would be a good idea. I think that if you're up to it, let's kind of show a demo of how your software works, and then we'll break down and talk about some of the SEO value, the content writing value, the time and energy that's spent into it, and all of the special sauce that makes it great. So what do you think?
I love it, Chris. There's nothing better than showing. So show versus
That's
tell,
right.
right? I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so you're looking at the inside of Consonant Scale, which is like the game-changing technology that I would say writes as good as me. Like, we're there. What? So here's how it works. You can set up a project according to your website. That's your first step. You're actually going to click Create Project. You can see I have 27 projects for 27 different websites going. I mean, these are the guest blogs I write for like Digital Marketer. These are copywriting projects for influencers. And then, of course, my own site where you can see I have 60 posts created. So let's go into a project and I'll show you the magic. So once you're in the project that you've set up, you can click this button, Write Post. And I'll tell you, there's even a step you can do before then. If you don't have the keyword research done, you can now do it inside of our tool. I was just doing a tutorial today for somebody. Yes, this is an API call to Mangle's Keyword Finder. So it's incredibly good data. Yes, so this just launched, like we're talking, Chris, this launched, I want to say 2 weeks ago. So this is a brand new feature. And you can type in your seed keyword, hit generate keywords. And then from that seed keyword, it's going to give you a whole report. We'll see in a couple minutes. Here we go, real-time progress bar. And it's going to give you ways to sort by your search volume, your ranking difficulty. And then here's the magic of this. And this was blowing someone's mind earlier today, where I was showing them we can now do keyword research, right? We have our topics, but we can go straight into create content and literally hit write post now. I mean, what did that used to take years ago? You'd have to, months ago. You'd have to go find a writer, put a job post out, wait for that writer, hope to get it back on time, hope they knew SEO. So let's actually look at the quality of these pieces, which that's, you live or die by the quality of the content you publish. And that's a big reason why it took me all of last year to adapt to AI, because I didn't see a lot of quality. So this particular software, Consonant Scale, is a stack of 3 different LLMs with proprietary technology built in. So that means it's actually editing its own grammar. It's going and researching real time to find facts. It's linking to those facts. It's naming specific acronyms that are important to that topic. And it's doing things like you can see it's naming tools, linking to the tools. It's doing things that I've heard writers tell me this is done better than what I would do, because I don't even know. I don't have the level of knowledge that AI has. So this is a look at content. We call it straight out of AI. I mean, what do you think, Chris? Pretty good stuff, right?
Awesome. Now, this is long format content. I'm looking at it. It says 2,419 words. And then tell me about, you have it's some sort of anagram. It's like Swift or something like that, or Craft, or tell me about that.
Yes,
hey, see, I'm a good student.
You got it.
Yeah, tell me about Craft.
You are. Yes. So CRAFT is my acronym to help writers kind of memorize, mnemically. It's just an easy way to remember the steps you need to take, because your craft has changed. So that's one reason for that term. It's enforcing that, like, whoa, we're at a place where we no longer have to pull up Microsoft Word and write from scratch. We can literally open AI, and in 5 minutes, we're looking at something this good. What? And it's fully original. So CRAFT stands for the steps you want to take to make this content publish ready. Cut the fluff. That's the first step. Usually AI has a lot of jargon, a lot of unnecessary words. This is pretty good. So like, I don't really need to cut that much from this tool. Like, this is good. We're looking at short, punchy content, but you still want to read through it and make sure you cut the fluff. And then R stands for review. You want to look at it from an SEO angle. Do I have the right keywords? Is this optimized enough? You can see here in Consonant Scale, like it's telling us there's keywords in red, which means we need to put these into the topic a few more times, so we can actually click on the keyword to see where it exists in the content piece. So we know, okay, it's there. I need to add it in a few more
Yeah.
times. And then the rest of the acronym A, you're going to add images, media. That just brings it to life, adding in those images. You can use Mid-Journey. You know, we can use AI now to add
Yep.
images. And the F stands for fact check. And the last piece is T for trust build through story. So you want to add in your personal story, what makes you unique, the things you sell, talk about that from that personal
Yeah.
angle. And that's really going to set you apart, you know, versus just like blasé AI content. That creates that sales factor where people are like, "Oh, it's Chris. Okay, I can trust
Yeah.
him." So that's craft.
Yeah. Now tell me a little bit about, so we have long form content. You got 2,400 words. You get through the craft process. How high do you think you could get that number? It's currently at 68.
Yes, yes. So let me show you a piece that we put through the craft process. Typically, if you hit above 80, you're doing really well. Like that is an optimized piece of content. You are ready to publish that piece. So here's one where we've hit 89 out of 100. You know, we have enough links in here, enough internal links. We've hit green on these major keywords. So if we scroll through it, like you're going to see there's a YouTube embed, right? The writer went and
Yep.
found that. Here's a GIF. This will look better.
Yeah, when it's live.
on
Yeah.
the site.
All my programs are
Impressed,
like this though. Yeah. Yeah.
right? You know.
Yep.
And it's just optimized to where like we even have a CTA about, hey, go check out what we do. If you need a website, so there's a CTA to our services. And then there's another image, a CTA, another image, a YouTube video, another screenshot, a couple more screenshots, some bar graphs, and then we end with a CTA. So we've just brought it to life, right, using that craft framework. And this is probably taking us, I want to say, 30 to 40 minutes versus, you know, this used to take 8 hours to write this from scratch.
Sure. Now, tell me about one of the screens that you're on before talked about, I saw a thing that said clusters. So you have long form content, but
Yes.
I also kind of, like I subscribe to one of the things that I try to write a hub and spoke model where I have a longer piece of content and then some other cluster bespoke content that points to it. Is that part of, I'm seeing clusters too.
Yes, that's, you know your
There you
stuff.
go.
Look at
Hey.
you. Talking about clusters,
That's
I
right.
love it. Yes, so you can do that in our keyword research tool, and that is proprietary software that was built by the Content at Scale development team, because you don't see this in tools
No.
like SEMrush, Keyword Finder, right? So you can actually create, let's do
Yep.
one. Let's go ahead and create a topic cluster from this all-important keyword content marketing, which if you are a service provider, that's a great topic to have domain authority for. And that's what clusters help you do, is achieve that domain authority. So, you know, the more content you have, just like you were saying, hub and spoke, that's another way to see it.
Yep.
Content that connects to each other and builds this network of authority. So that's what our tool helps you do as well. You can generate a cluster, and then what we're going to see whenever it generates the cluster is we're going to see individual topics that we can send straight to the AI writer, and we can have written, you know, in minutes.
And then out of curiosity though, so you have the longer form content. Would you say that the spokes should be as longer format, or do you find that, in other words, commonly when I have my hub is, like you said, like 2,400 words, but then a lot of my spokes were shorter content, maybe 12 to 1,500. Do you have the possibility of, you know, like doing that, or are they all certain length, keyword length?
Yeah, great question. So what you want to do is basically have this, the benchmark is what's ranking in Google for that keyword.
Yep.
So if it's short content, you want to write short content. If it's long content, you want to write long. And generally, you know, the longer the keyword is, the less words you need for that keyword, because then it gets very specific.
Okay.
Like how to groom my Labradoodle is a lot more specific than how to groom a
Sure.
dog, which is like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's a lot of content.
Yeah. So while this is
let it-
loading as
we'll let it
well, we were talking about, so you have the hub and the spoke model, stuff like that. Now, when you
Yes.
try to do this, do you try to also do it so that you would kind of coach other companies to be a little bit more, I guess you would say, I would try to go and I would go straight text, and then I would do other things where I would say, hey, you know what, on this other spoke, I might have an infographic, other you know what I mean? Other spokes, I might have a video, or so on and so forth. So I don't always I would say not all spokes are equal. Does that make sense?
So I would completely agree. Yeah, if you think about the formats, you want to diversify, and the blog, the article format is always a baseline because that's the content that gets indexed for all of those organic SERPs in Google. But you want to build off of that. So
Yeah.
like, you're seeing us do YouTube embeds, and infographic embed is another great way to bring that content piece to life. But you can still always benefit, I would say, from SEO content on that topic, even
Yep.
if you're like, well, this lends better to an infographic, this lends better to a YouTube video because we need to do some screen sharing. Oh my goodness, look at all of these clusters we could do.
Wow.
This is crazy.
Wow.
So we got 2 pages of clusters done. We've got our topics, we've got all of our sub keywords underneath. So it's telling us,
Yep.
these are the things we need to rank for. Content marketing ROI. That's a great one. Reporting, analysis.
Now, would
so it's going to tell us.
create your own spoke for each one of those, or would you create like maybe 2 or 3 spokes and try to combine if there's like-minded words in there, like content marketing ROI and content ROI? What would you coach?
So I would absolutely combine. These could potentially be, I would say, at the most 2 pieces, if not 1 long form piece, and then we're creating these additional pieces up here because SEO content creation deserves its own in-depth guide. And then content marketing ROI is essentially its own guide. So this could be 1 good long form in-depth piece of content.
That's great. That's great.
And we can click create content and bam, it's going to send it right over there. Oh, and look at this. So it's loading it up. So your primary keyword and then your secondary keywords for that piece of content. Let's hit write post now, and then it's 10 minutes. It's going to, I've already written on this keyword. It stopped me from cannibalizing my keywords.
And then
the tool works.
What do you do about, so if you go and you write this content, right, and then when you start to publish all this stuff, what do you find is do you find that your turnaround time is a little bit more predictable? And the reason why I say that is that when I go and I try to create a hub and spoke model, I know this sounds weird, but I have the hub and I'm all excited about the hub. And I write my first spoke and I'm really excited about the spoke. And then I never get to spoke 3, 4, and 5 because I get an idea for another hub. So I have a bunch of unsupported hubs floating in the ether because I never got there.
Well, what we could do, like what we were talking about earlier, some may lend to YouTube videos, some may lend to infographics, but the truth is all of them would benefit from that underlying SEO content. So what you could do is be like, well, I don't really have the time to develop those 5 spokes. So let me just plug those keywords in content at scale, have it write the content, do 10 minutes of editing, and at least I have supporting SEO content out. So that's how I would approach that.
Very cool. Very cool. And it does all the metadata and stuff like that as well? Like all the...
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes, correct. It'll do all of that. Like it'll give us, you can see right here, we have a unique title for this piece. It came up with the URL slug, the meta, and this directly integrates with your site. Right now we have a WordPress plugin, a Shopify plugin. We've got HubSpot, Webflow on the way. So you can integrate this directly and it will actually fill out the meta description on WordPress in Yoast or Rank Math for you. You don't even need to touch it.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yes. I can't believe this because, we did this as an agency service and the amount of people, time, and cost this used to take.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Very cool. Now, what about, are there any ways that they'll be able to start to develop rules? And what I mean by that is that when we go and we have our content, usually what we have is that we have what they're called case notes or something like that. So, maybe it's how you spell a certain client's name or how they, like, for example, in the orthopedics industry, which is one of our industries we serve, they have the traditional Latin way of spelling orthopedics that has an A and the E in the word orthopedics.
Yes.
And then they have orthopedics, which is the way 99.9% of us spell it with the E, just the E. Are there ways to start to get it so that it would learn some of the case notes over time?
Yes, absolutely. And let me ask you a question. Would that be also location specific or is it more?
No, that would be client.
Is it
It'd be
more
more
how
like
they
client
say?
specific. Like
Client.
the older, more institute-based orthopedics providers are Latin and sophisticated, and then the rest of us are just, all the rest of them are like,
Okay.
we just want to help people.
Right. Yes, you
Yep.
got some interesting ones, in other
Yeah,
words.
exactly.
Yes. So you could actually do that right now, and I'll show you how. So once you set up your project, what you would want to do for like the quirky
Hmm.
cases like that is in project settings, you can go to tone of voice, write in the word
Okay.
custom. This will give you a new tab called AI training. And in this
Hmm.
tab, you can drop in examples of just what you were saying, orthopedic spelled that certain
Wow.
way. And then down here in the context, you can tell it, make sure that you write orthopedic with this specific
Wow.
spelling. So you can actually
That's
guide
so
it
cool.
with our AI training tab. This launched in April. It was a total game changer. Because you're right, like we have,
Hmm.
there's so many brands out there that have specific ways of saying things, and that specific way builds a lot of trust for
Yep.
them. It's how they're known. So you've got to be able to do
Yeah.
that.
Very cool. Very cool. Now,
Yes,
now
crazy.
unpack what you said earlier. You said it quickly. You're using a variety of large language models.
Yes,
Unpack that for
yes,
me.
correct. So yeah, yeah, for sure. So this is a stack of three different LLMs, the large language
Okay.
model. Of course, one of them is OpenAI.
Hmm.
It's pretty interesting because the development team, they've been doing this since for I would say a year and a half. The software itself just crossed a year this September of 2023, a year old. So they've put so much into building it out that they're looking at potentially creating their own proprietary LLM at this point.
Wow.
It's wild because what's happened is the content you see that this AI in particular produces, and this is what drew me to it, is the content is actually really good. It's written with a lot of finesse, taste. Like it's written really
Yeah.
well. Like some of the best writers, this is their style.
Yeah.
So it has achieved that level, and that's not a GPT call or API call to GPT-4 is not going to get you this level of writing. So that proprietary stack is what's creating such a unique flow. And then on the back end of that stack, they've also built in additional technology like the grammar editing piece, a semantic analysis crawler that goes and
Mm.
looks at Google, and it's putting in insights from those top pieces in Google into the LLM as it's being written.
Wow.
So it's kind of like this KFC secret sauce
Ah, that's cool.
type of thing at this point.
That's really cool.